Okay, here we are going to just configure the recently installed routing and remote access role. We're going to configure just it to be a LAN router. So it's very simple. Configure, right-click and configure the local server and follow the wizard. We want custom configuration, LAN routing, and that's basically it. And we'll start up the service. And now the two subnets that are attached through the two network cards will be able to communicate with each other. So the 10.1 subnet will be able to talk to the 13.1 subnet because of this routing and remote access role that's installed in what we've configured so far. Hi there. In this video we're going to continue on from the previous video and to complete a site link that is limited to 1 megabit per second within my lab network. Currently what we've done is we've built this subnet in all of these systems. We've built this subnet in this Egypt file server, and we have this Windows server with the routing and remote access role installed, but we've only installed the router portion. So what we're going to implement now is the quality of service feature that will limit the bandwidth going from the 13.0 network to the 10.0 network, and it's going to limit it to 1 megabits per second. So let's see how that's done. And just a quick recap here. This is our domain controller in Canada, and this is our router in between the two networks, simulating the site link. And then this here is our file server in Egypt. And if we were to ping the DC in Canada, we can see we get a pretty quick response time. And now if we go back to this domain controller, we should be able to copy this 500 megabyte file fairly quickly. There's no limitation, so it'll just go as fast as my computer can handle it, which isn't that great, but so copy, paste, and here we can see we get 35 to 40 megabytes per second, which isn't too bad. Oops. Actually, I'm just going to show that in the task manager graph so we get an idea in that form as well. Okay, so around 40 megabytes per second. And so now what we want to do is implement a feature in this router server. And if we do a quick IP config, we see it has two network cards, and each one is one has 10.1 and the other is 13.1. So for the Egypt server, the gateway is 13.1, and for the Canadian servers, their gateways is 10.1. And if we look up here, we can see the remote access role is installed. And I'll just pull this up. A very basic configuration here, which is shown in the previous video, so I won't get over that, or I won't go over that, but it is up and running and working. And the next part is the part where we limit the bandwidth. So that's done on the domain controller using a group policy. So we can open up the group policy management tools. Group policy management. And what we want to do is create a new group policy, and it's going to be on the root. Create a group policy in the domain and link it to that lab.local root. And I'll give it a name, bandwidth limiter between subnets. want to edit that. So there's some rules in there that actually do the work for us. Windows settings, and then policy-based QoS. So we come in here, right-click, create a new policy, and give it a name. Bandwidth. I'll just give it the site name. So Egypt to Canada, 1 megabit per second. Okay, so the first option here, DSCP value. This here is an integer value representing different priority that you can assign to different packets. So a priority of 1, or actually all items would have a default value of 0. If you were to give something with a priority of 1, that packet would be have a higher QoS value, and it would be delivered before the 0 packets, or it would have priority over that 0 value traffic that you assign. But we're not playing with that. We're just saying everything is getting throttled at 1 megabits per second, which is 25 kilobytes per second. 125. So we're going to say all applications have this limitation. And then here we're going to say that the QoS policy applies to the following source IP address or prefix. So that's our 13.0/24 subnet, and anything that's going to the 10.0 subnet. So we'll click on next, and we'll say everything, TCP and UDP, and that's pretty much it. So now if we were to, oh yeah, and I'll go back to Active Directory users and computers. So the servers I've moved into, oops, that's not right. Come on. There, okay. So just wanted to show you I've moved the server objects out of the default computers OU and placed them into this, or actually, sorry, that's a computers folder, and this is a new servers OU. So all 3 machines are in that same OU, and they're going to inherit that group policy, which is in the root of the domain. So now we can either wait 45 minutes for them to grab the group policy automatically, could be, or we can force it, gp update force, and I'll do that on all machines. Okay, so now it should be in effect already. Just refresh, copy. Oh, I'll open up the task manager so we can get that graph back, and then paste. Oops, I'll delete that one. Paste. So here we can see it's calculating, and that is because it is going much, much slower than before. And we'll see with the graph that it's going to peak at 1 megabit per second. Oh, and here we can see it's already very close to 1 megabit per second. So it's working as we had hoped. Nice. Okay, well, I won't waste your time with watching this for some time here. So hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll go on to the next subject.